Hey, Chris, welcome to another week. Another week, another cyber breach or 3.
Or 20. Hey, I just read that ransomware is the most it's ever been in history, and we're in October, so have fun for that one.
Well, who's counting?
So they got a couple. They got a couple more months to raise the bar, huh?
Well, they got Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's to really kind of New Year's Eve to really ratchet it up, huh?
Okay, I think we'll just pull the plug and shut down for those days.
Some people can, some people can't, right?
Yeah, I know.
Hey, we're coming to the end of Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Anyway, before we jump into that, we do have Matt with us today.
Morning.
Yeah, his name's
Matt.
on the screen. He's fine. He doesn't need to be introduced.
Oh.
Approved.
We're in a house in Florida, and you are not, so that's fun.
Yeah, but it was 80 degrees yesterday in New Jersey.
Oh.
That's fair, but I lost money at the casino last night, so who really wins there?
He was winning money, but then he made some poor choices and lost money. So
I was playing with house money, and house money took my money back. So
okay, there you go. They wanted them. They wanted it back. Anyway, you guys are away, and I know you said, in the green room, you said there was some stuff you wanted to talk about around internet-facing stuff. So why don't we jump in?
All right. Cybersecurity Awareness Month come to the end. This week was all about patching for both devices, like Windows, Mac, Linux, but more importantly, internet-facing devices. So all those routers you have at your house or the firewalls or routers you have at your business. I've done Citrix for longer than I care to admit, and Citrix has had a rough couple months with vulnerabilities, and this one. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's really important that we understand that anything that faces the internet is a threat to the business, especially considering they need to be updated, and not all of them support auto updates.
Yeah,
someone's got to be watching it and actually making sure it's all patched
up. And also, what happens when auto updates fail? They fail all the time. Like they may not be able to update for whatever reason, so you think that auto updates are happening, but if you're not checking on it, they may be actually failing.
So if you fall behind, it's kind of like leaving the front door open.
It kind of, or the back door.
Any door.
We should probably leave that at that.
Yeah. And there's been some Sonic Wall ones this year, and
Fortinet's had a rough couple
of years. A rough time, yeah.
Yeah, Palo Alto. Because you think about it from this perspective, if you do this in work, you're probably using a VPN, especially in bigger enterprises. You're using a VPN, right? And there's been a lot of VPN client vulnerabilities from Cisco, from Fortinet, from Palo Alto, like all these places. That's software, but that's connecting into the firewall. Well, the firewalls have had similar vulnerabilities where you could just bypass authentication. You could do remote code execution. So you could actually do things on the firewall like add access. And then once you're in there, they're in your network, and now they're going to try to move laterally. But specifically for the Citrix one that's out right now, this is very important because hosting providers, like certain things that host accounting software, use Citrix.
Not the names.
Yeah, I'm not going to name names. But there's more desktop stuff too. But like these private data centers that host this stuff, Citrix has a vulnerability that's like, I think it's like a 9.4 out of 10 on the CVS scale. Yeah. Well, here's the thing: they can steal session authentication tokens right off the NetScaler with very low effort. So if you logged into your NetScaler, there's a chance they could just go steal your session token, which for a normal user, they can get into the sessions, your application, stuff like that. Maybe they won't be able to do anything. Maybe they will. But once you give somebody access like that, there's no telling what they can do. What happens if one of your...
Just clarify a minute, Chris. So session tokens are basically the connection string that the connection credentials needed to become the session that's someone's currently running. So guys, the bad guys basically become you without you.
Yeah, and those tokens actually contain your Active Directory username and password.
So anything you can do, they can do.
Yeah. So imagine because they can go through the NetScaler and they can pretty much steal any authentication. Imagine if you have administrators logging in with administrative credentials through the NetScaler.
Which, by the way, don't do that. You should avoid it.
People do that.
That's another story. People do that. I know, but ignorance is bliss.
So by having that, it makes it even easier. But regardless of whether you're a normal user or not, if you give somebody access into your network, there's a good chance that they will find a way to elevate that to some level of administrative privileges, and you will not have a good day.
Well,
or a good week, or a good month.
And honestly, there's a good chance they'll sit there for 6 months,
yeah.
and you won't know they're there, and they will just collect all the information they can to do nefarious things with it, and then you're going to have the real bad day.
And this brings me, I mean, that's like a larger small business to mid to like enterprise, right? All these people, how about all the people that we've seen, and I know you guys have probably seen this, where they go buy consumer level routers and they run their business behind them.
Yep.
How many have you seen that have had just like massive vulnerabilities that turns up into bots that can be used to like do a distributed denial of service attack against whoever? Or they can just, so which your internet would be down. You're now committing, you're part of a cybercrime. Not that they're going to charge you.
Not intentionally.
Yeah, not intentionally.
Is still being used for, purposes to attack others.
Yeah. So
hey, I got called in. I got called into one client that got a letter from the movie associations because they had become the primary download site for one of the new releases that have been bootlegged.
I mean,
it's just someone jumped their connection and grabbed it from there.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, they
Was it a good movie though? At least
I don't even remember what movie it was. It was years ago, and the guy downloaded. The guy was terminated over it because he downloaded stuff. He became the major and he became the major download site because they just upgraded that location to super ultra fast. It was before gigabit internet was predominant, but they had it.
Mm-hmm. Man, we're getting off topic a little bit, but I have seen a lot of pirated videos and audio on different business networks, which presents a whole different level of liability to Bob's point. So, but going back to like patching and vulnerabilities, it's really critically important to make sure that we're taking care of this stuff. Matt and I did a video the other day where Matt talked about switches. Cisco has a massive vulnerability right now. Does it affect small business? No, probably not. But if you're mid enterprise or an enterprise and you have Cisco switches, you may be affected by this. And they can basically do a man-in-the-middle attack on everything, all the traffic in your network.
Wow.
That is a problem.
Yeah.
And
honestly, I would argue those are in small business sometimes because they often buy or procure, off-lease equipment and things like that.
Yeah, these are the enterprise level though, so probably, we're probably good. Yeah, you should obviously check. And actually, one of the things you should do is if you're using a provider of some sort, they should be providing you proof that the stuff is being taken care of.
Absolutely.
So something that you should really question and really force the issue is say, look, like we don't need to know all the ins and outs of the technical aspect of it, but we want to know that you're patching, and we want some level of proof that that's happening. You don't have to understand the firewall. You don't have to understand like everything about it, but you should understand whether it's up to date or not.
So Chris, you talked about not buying the consumer grade firewalls, but what about all the stuff that the cable companies are dropping off and saying, oh yeah, we got your firewall, we got your internet protection, and now we got all these people working at home. How do we know that's upgraded? Do we even care?
Well, to their point, they should. Well, yeah, that's fair. You don't know, but they have automatic updates built in. So you're assuming that they are. However, take that with a grain of salt. The stuff that they're selling you isn't going to solve all your problems. Firewalls aren't the end-all be-all of security because it's pretty easy to bypass a firewall. But what you don't want to do is make the firewall so easy that somebody can just go to, hit your IP address and like get into your network, right? Like everybody has a public IP. It's like your address, whether it's dynamic or static. Which static is more like a house. Dynamic could be more like you moving around, being a what do you want to call it? Rollerblading. Yeah. Yeah, like a nomad.
Rollerblade.
A digital nomad, right? So you want to make sure that it's not that difficult. Now Comcast and a lot of these places, they're going to provide like they're assuming that liability for that, but still, even if they're assuming that, like the ultimate liability relies on you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd say they're providing the minimal. But I mean, the liability falls on you because it's your data. So that's
I mean,
kind of
I haven't looked at their terms of service, but do you really think they're liable for anything coming in on that wire?
I think
yeah,
they're gonna
but
push it to
terms
you.
of terms of service are all relative. I mean, like anybody can write anything in terms of service until it goes to court. So until somebody goes to court over it. But I think the more important thing about this is to really kind of look at like, what is your business affected by? Do you have regulation that requires you to have an actual like advanced firewall? That's something to really think about. And if you do, you need to have one. So don't just rely on the Comcast, but it's on you as the business owner or an executive, or if you're a compliance officer or whatever, to understand those like requirements and make sure that they're being done in the business. And then make sure to patch them.
Well, and then if you're traveling and not behind that firewall, there's something else in place. There's layers to consider, but I mean, it's,
and then
make sure you're protected.
One thing we didn't even talk. I'll tell you quick stories. Let's just go beyond hardware. So not firewalls, not anything. There are things inside of your servers that you can view the console remotely, right? You can view it like if there's a monitor plugged into a keyboard and mouse, you can view it. I have seen people put these on the internet. Please don't do that. Please.
Why, just because you have complete unfettered access like you're sitting in front of it?
iDRAC is from Dell, ILO's from HP. They've had massive vulnerabilities that are relatively easy to bypass. Putting them on the internet, and again, this comes back to internet.
Yes, I think we talked about that last week because I ran across one on an audit, and it still had the default. Was it Calvin password?
I did too, and that sticker's usually on like top front of the server. So if somebody visits the office and snaps a picture, they've got the keys.
For VMware, that a lot of companies use to run their virtual machines, run their entire infrastructure, their network on. I've seen people put their vCenter on the internet, unfettered.
Don't do that.
It's not behind a VPN. It's not IP locked. It's not any. There's no restriction to it. Just published on the internet. Please don't do that. VMware has another vulnerability out right now for vCenter that if you haven't patched it, it's so bad that they just went back and patched 2 out of support versions because they were scared of it.
Wow.
So anything internet facing is dangerous for any business, and you have to make sure to keep it up to date, patch it, whether it's hardware, whether it's software, and you need to be monitoring this stuff too. So it's a really good idea to have some level of monitoring in this. So just in case something does happen, let's say you don't patch on day one, you're going back to the Citrix vulnerability. The patch didn't come out till October 10th. They're saying that this vulnerability has been being exploited since August. So we as professionals couldn't even fix it till October 10th.
Right.
But hackers and threat actors have been using it since August.
Well, we couldn't fully patch it, but we could mitigate it by not putting it open on the internet. For
Citrix though, this is how people get into their Citrix. So it's going to be internet.
So that's a whole different.
Yeah. So this is the gateway portion to get in to actually launch applications.
Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah. So Citrix didn't publish it until the 10th, but Mandiant is saying, hey, this has been being exploited since August, and this is common. A lot of these exploits are exploited. They're considered 0 days, but they're exploited well before there's a patch available.
Sure.
Or a mitigation available. So once you can take this further, yes, we need to patch. Yes, we need to make sure that we're doing that, but we need to have a level of like detection inside of a business so that when your firewall is passed or Citrix or whatever, you're noticing when there's anomalies on your network.
That abnormal behavior.
Yeah, like people are trying to like hack in your Active Directory. If you're not monitoring for that, if you don't have a team behind that or some AI, that's a problem. And this is just a risk mitigation strategy. Yes, it's technical, but somebody gets in and takes you down. What does that cost you? And we just, I was just in Nashville last week, and they were talking about how sometimes insurance companies, like yes, you have cyber insurance, and yes, they'll send forensics out. It can take 8 to 10 days before they get out there, and guess what? You can't do anything during that. They won't let you restore, and that's before they start. So let's say the investigation now takes a week or 2 weeks or something like that. Now you have to understand that your business is down for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
And that comes into disaster recovery planning too. Full DR plan, which, to be honest, most don't have.
Yeah. So I know we went a little, but this is what can happen when you don't patch, like, or if something gets patched.
We birdwalked a bit, but this is how it flows, right? You find one little way in, and it can become a real bad time, real expensive time.
Yeah, one guy talked about it, and he told a story about how it was, I think, 14 days or something like that. It was like basically 2 weeks before the forensics could show up.
Yeah. So
he wasn't allowed to restore anything.
They weren't allowed to turn them on at that point.
Yeah,
they weren't allowed to operate.
They weren't allowed to restore anything. So they had to sit there. I think he was down for a month total.
I cannot imagine.
You didn't lose any money on that deal, I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it was fine and dandy.
I didn't ask the guy if the company was still in business, but so yeah, again, let's rehash a little bit. If it's internet facing, patch it, whether it's hardware, whether it's software. Make sure you're getting proof that it's being patched. Have some level of detection inside of your network so that when something happens, when it's bypassed, you are able to detect that there's something going on. This goes back to all of these attacks you see on the internet between like MGM and Caesars and stuff like that. They didn't do very good anomaly detection on their networks, and they got hacked. Everybody's going to get hacked at some point, at some level. We have to be able to detect it, and we have to be able to respond to it. And detection is so critical in this aspect, and it's one of the things that, like, I see missed a lot. I'm sure you guys kind of agree with that. You just don't have detection in place. So we need to be able to see it. We need to be able to paint a picture of what's happening on your network, and that's how you can at least mitigate your risk as much as you can, and obviously respond to it. So,
well, I know you guys have to do some travel today, so why don't we wrap this up and you can get that venture started. Hopefully, it's not one of my normal travel days.
So we got 4 days left in the month. We've talked this entire month's talked about passwords, multi-factor authentication, phishing, and patching. All really basic stuff that anybody can do without spending a ton of money.
Yep.
So even if you're a small business, you can do this. There's resources out there. You reach out to people. If you need help doing it, obviously all three of us can help you. But just ask for the help. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't be an ostrich. I mean, you could. I mean, they're kind of cool, but like, don't stick your head in the sand.
Don't be a security ostrich.
Yeah. Let's go with that. Look, just ask for help. Understand that we're here to help, and there's people out there, not just us, that are here to help. That make sure that we're trying to help you keep your business as safe as possible, because we live in your communities. We care about the people in our communities. I mean, I kind of care about people, not in your community. I don't care about the people in your community, but
hey, come on.
Or Bob's, honestly. Well, actually, Bob's, because one of my customers on it. But that's another story. But we do care. Like, all of us care. I'll joke aside.
What about yours?
Yeah. They don't care about mine, but we care. We do want to help you, and I think that's the important message here, is that we do care and we do want to help you. So if you need help, reach out. Even if we can't be your provider, I'm sure any of us would give you some advice.
Yep.
So be safe.
Be safe. We'll catch up next week, and we're looking to rename this talk we're doing. Maybe have 4 people in it, and stay tuned for some changes.
They're not going to let me name it, by the way, because I will come up with an offensive name that nobody will ever.
That is correct.
Be allowed.
That is definitive.
Banned by Google.
Before we even posted it.
We're going to post the Apple podcast, and they're just like, denied. Just like to see my name. Damn. All right. We'll see you next week.